Okay everyone, so today I'm telling you a little bit about the extra care that the weather changes up here make necessary for the animals. So for Chip specifically, he is a little bit older for a horse and he has a little bit of like arthritic stiffness in especially his hind legs. So in his feed in the morning, he gets turmeric, and it is for the it increases blood circulation. He gets this in his morning grain. Sometimes he gets it in the evening grain, sometimes he doesn't. This is magnesium lotion, and depending on how warm it is, we rub this on his tendons because his tendons are what gets so stiff. And magnesium dissipates lactic acid, which is what makes joints and tendons sore. That's the buildup. In New York, we have a 5th season up here. We have spring, summer, winter, fall, and right before spring and right after winter, there's this in-between season called mud season. And it is a mess. Everything is so muddy. And so that means that all of the animals, even the cows, require a little bit extra care. In the winter, you don't want to groom your animals because they have a special oil in their skin that insulates them. It's called sebum. And if you brush them, you disturb that sebum and like fluff the hair, and while fluffing sounds like it would keep them warmer, it doesn't actually. It lets in the cold air. So in order to keep them warm, they don't get a whole lot of grooming in the winter, only if they get really nasty. But during mud season, they get really nasty like every day. And they have to be groomed at least like every 3 days. And we're like just on the brink of mud season in winter, and they are pretty dirty, especially the cows. The cows get pretty nasty. I'm just gonna break down for you kind of what that grooming looks like. So this is called a curry comb, and it is specifically used for shedding. So even cats, you don't curry comb cats, but even cats grow this extra thick fur for the winter time. But the cats have special like hooks on their tongues, and when they groom themselves, they get all that loose fur and dandruff out of their own hair, and it keeps them clean. Horses don't do that, or cows. Pearl and fawns kind of groom each other, but it's not quite the same as a curry comb. So especially during the spring and kind of later in the mud season, or if they're like really caked in mud, you want one of these because it has these rough, abrasive like teeth on it, and it doesn't hurt them. It's actually very good for circulation because it gets the blood flowing. So we use this, and this is a shedding curry comb. There's also a thing called a shedding blade, which is in like a horseshoe shape, and there's a thong of leather that tie the two ends together. But we don't really use one of those very often. So in just like your day-to-day maintenance grooming, this is called a rubber curry comb. And this is pretty good at getting mostly everything off. It's just caked mud needs a little more work, so that's why I use the shedding blade. But this is very handy for pretty much everything. Some people even use them to like massage their horse. Okay, so this is called a dandy brush, and it has, so what the curry comb does is it loosens hair and mud, but it doesn't get it off of the animal. That's what the dandy brush does, and it has these short, stiff bristles that just flick all that dirt and mud off. It even works for human coats. It's a very handy brush. This is called a soft brush, and this is to smooth the hair, and it kind of gives like a little bit of a gleam to their coat, and it's really the finishing touch, and this is the only one you would use on their face or their belly or their legs. This is a well-loved mane brush, and what it does, it acts kind of like a pick, and it just like picks out all the knots and tangles in their mane and tail, and it keeps them looking healthy, because horses will get dreadlocks in their tails just like you and me, and they're not fun. Their tails don't work as well when they have dreadlocks. These are two different kinds of hoof picks. This is a pick with a scraper and a brush. This is just a pick. Some people like these pointier picks. Some people like the blunt picks. I personally don't really care. Dad likes these blunt picks more. It's kind of just a preference. This one, especially with the scraper on it, is especially handy when you have snow caking up, because the sharper point will break up the ice that balls up in their feet, and this can scrape it out, and this just gets all that gunk out of like the crevices. It's very handy. So that is my bag of tricks. Okay, so now that I have kind of explained you some of the extra like stuff that needs to be done, I'm going to do some of that grooming maintenance because they're pretty dirty right now, and you get to watch from in the barn, because we have like 50-mile-an-hour winds today. That right there, that's that 50-mile-an-hour wind. You're watching from in here today. Lucky you. Okay, I'm gonna go grab Fonzie real quick. How thick this stuff is. So thick. Buzz. And his feet, they have special little hooks, like here, that help him keep traction. Don't they handsome? Yeah. Alright, Pearl's turn. Okay, so I want you guys to notice something. I showed you how thick Fonz's hair is. This is Pearl's winter coat, untouched. Like, she hasn't started shedding this out yet. It is still a lot thinner than Fonz's, and I don't really know why that is. But if you look here, you can see that all this long, like copper colored stuff is coming out, and you can see the blonde, lighter stuff underneath. By the time summer comes around, her whole body will be the color of her face here. Okay, now before I start grooming him, I just want to say something. I showed you Fonz's hooves, and they are pronged, and the reason I'm grooming him in here is because there's no ice. Fonz's hooves are built for traction. Cows are built to get traction in tough places and to be able to pull a heavy load. Horses are built to go the distance faster, not necessarily to have great traction. Because look. So Chip's hooves have that rounded edge and they're flat on the bottom. He has longer legs. So he was made to be able to go faster, and Fonz was made to be able to pull a heavier load and be able to do it in tough places. Okay, so I'm currently reading this book by Temple Grandin, who is a amazing stewarder of livestock, and there were some things that just really were like really neat that I just kind of wanted to share with you guys real quick. So if you noticed, while I was grooming Chip, I was like moving you around. You came inside the stall, I put you in different corners while I was picking hooves so that you could see what I was doing. But while I was picking Haida, you stayed right here the whole time. And right here is about 6 to 7 feet away from her right eye. And that is not because Haida or the camera is practicing social distancing. That is because all grazing animals have this thing called a flight zone. And it is a 6-foot radius that if you come inside of it, they're going to move off from pressure and they're gonna try to leave. Especially if you're putting off like something that would be frightening. And Haida does not like the camera. It kind of concerns her, especially I have the dead cat on it right now because it's really windy out here. So you stayed 6 to 7 feet away from her the whole time and on her right side. So the reason that is significant is because the right side of a horse's mind is the emotion processing side. And her left eye connects directly with the right side of her brain. And if I had had you on her left side, she would have been much more likely, simply because it is a direct connect to the right side of her brain, she would have been much more likely to get like really worked up. As it is, she stared at you the whole time. I don't think she stopped looking at you once. So she was still concerned, but she wasn't panicked, which is good because I don't want her to be panicked. I want her to be as calm as possible. So they have a 6-foot flight radius around them, and from 6 to I think it's like 18 feet. So they have the 6-foot radius, and then outside of the 6-foot radius out to an 18-foot radius is their alert zone. So they're gonna be looking at you, but they're not gonna be concerned enough or threatened enough or pushed enough to move off from that pressure. And I didn't want her to move. I wanted her to stand there so that I could groom her and get her clean and send her back out to the pasture to be with all her buddies. So you really want any animal to stay as calm as you possibly can keep them. And that's even more true for a beef cow. So Fonz is not very concerned about the camera, neither is Chip. Pearl is a little more concerned about it, but not enough to where I would have been really concerned bringing you in with me. Haida is just a more sensitive animal. But if Fonz had been really concerned about the camera, I may not have even filmed that because he's going to be beef. And when an animal is stressed out, like by the camera, by anything, but specifically I'm talking about the camera right now, it releases cortisol into their bloodstream, and that hinders their weight gain. And when you're raising a beef cow, you want him to weigh as much as possible, because if you're going to sell him, you get paid by the pound, and if you're going to eat him, you want as much meat to eat as possible, right? So you really want to keep them all as calm as possible, not only so they'll have a healthy weight, but just for overall health. It's not good to be stressed all the time. We shouldn't be stressed all the time. That's not good for us either. So I wanted to keep her calm. And I think it's really neat that there's like been studies that have shown that like you can, like, it's connected. I think that's really neat, and I just want to share that with you guys. And I think that about wraps it up for today, guys. I guess all that's left to say is y'all have a blessed day.